Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back. Hey, this is episode 248. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. We do this live on Sunday nights on the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. Appreciate you jumping in, joining in the comments. You can find the audio absolutely everywhere you find your podcasts. With me, as always, my very good friend, lifelong Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Good evening, Nick. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Tomorrow, Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
Get your Good Guys Talk Back T-shirts by getting all inside Nick's DMs and ordering up that T-shirt for still a very affordable $25 if memory serves. So, just thought I'd get that out there right in the open right now, so people. I don't want to flood you with orders, Nick, and distract you from the show.
Yeah,
but I'd like to get that out into the world right now before we start.
It's smart, and there have been shirts that have already been shipped out and have been received. There are
really?
More.
You didn't update me with the sales.
I was.
We usually have a sales meeting on Thursdays. We had to push it for the holidays, so
I'll get you the new numbers as soon as possible. But shirts are out there in the wild; they've been received, and I have a few heading out early this coming week. So
wow, look at that! Well, that means that demand is high and the supply is low. So maybe we should raise the price.
No, we're you know what? No, I'm gonna keep it at 25 right to your door. So I'm seeing what you're doing there. Yeah. Nope.
Look at you. You're so generous this time of year.
It's the holiday season. It's absolutely. It sure is now. It now is. Pat, I was, gathered with my family for Thanksgiving, as you were, and so many listeners probably were. And this time of year, you're with friends, you're with family that you haven't maybe seen in a while. And I mentioned this in a previous episode. You kind of go right back to a comfort zone, and mine is White Sox baseball. And we're talking Sox. You haven't seen an uncle or an aunt or a cousin or somebody in a while. What's happening? How was your experiences from last season? What off-season stuff, hopes, all that kind of stuff is discussed usually around this time, kind of Halloween to January 1st when you're seeing everybody. And I get it. Winter meetings haven't started up yet. That'll be next week. We have had the general managers meetings. There's been some rumors and everything. So there's maybe not a lot to get to. But I'm telling you, Pat, I don't know if you felt, and I'm not surprised by this. I don't know if this happened to you as well, but there was not a lot of White Sox conversation at all in my family, gathering for the whole weekend. There's not a lot out there, and I just don't know if there's a lot of excitement. And it's both of that with a lot of other stuff. Very little White Sox generated conversation.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I was talking with my dad, and he was asking me my thoughts. I said, just listen to the show. What do I need to tell you? I just put it on. Listen, what do you need me to tell you? I'm just kidding. He's an avid listener. He'll probably listen to this show. You know what? There isn't a lot to get excited about or talk about. There's the rumors that the hot stove really hasn't really gotten any kind of heat to it yet. It's just right on maybe not even a simmer, if you will. Maybe even the pilot light isn't even on yet.
Yeah.
So I think once we get through the winter meetings here, things will start to coagulate a little bit, come together. But the holiday kind of stops everything, right? The Thanksgiving holiday. I don't think there's a lot that usually traditionally goes on. Seemingly some things will get done right before the holiday, and then there's a break. I think just common this time of year where there's not much happening before the winter meetings. So it is what it is, Nick, but discussions around the family with the White Sox was, it's just kind of shrug of the shoulders, right?
Sure.
It's a lukewarm conversation. There isn't really that much excitement right now. So, that could change. I don't know what could bring about some excitement to the fan base right now, but it is a very lukewarm situation with the group and with amongst the fans, amongst you and I amongst people that cover the team. So just kind of scratching at things to glean to right now to talk about and maybe to trying to project what this offseason might look like.
Yeah, it's usually like someone in your life, family, relative, friend, whatever, some connection, some Sox connection that you haven't seen maybe in quite some time. You get together for the holidays, and it's always that one person every year. It's like, hey, they get an arm and they get a bat, and I like this Sox team. I like
who in
this
your
team.
family is saying who said that this past?
Nobody. That's what I'm saying.
None?
Nobody.
Not a one.
Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying that this year. But in years past, there's always been like, I think if they just added one more arm, or if they got that one thing figured out, I'm really liking this team. I've heard that over the last several years. Nothing even close to that at all this season. And I get it. It's completely understandable.
Have you in the past, have you been inviting Hawk Harrelson to family outings? Because usually that's like, I'll tell you what, Nick Murawski, first of all, this dressing is fantastic. Second of all, we get one more arm.
Dressing guy. He's a dressing guy.
Their dressing does make or break the whole meal, by the way.
Sure.
And it was fantastic this year. Shout out to my mom. So, I mean, it was. Nick, I don't know really what to say or where to begin with that. I mean, the fan base is lethargic, and it could use a shot, and maybe a shot in one way or the other. Like, I don't know, the Paul DeYoung, discussion. I'm sure
we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that.
I know we're going to get to that, but does that really do anything for you? Would you rather just have it go the other way and just be complete dumpster fire and know that the direction of the team is going to be a total teardown rebuild? I don't know. I think you and I think a lot of the fans are just kind of in this holding pattern of what really is the direction, because everybody wants to label it something, right? We talked a lot about it last week. Is it the retool, the rebuild? What I think the fans really want to know what they're in for, not only this year, but for maybe 2 or 3 years to come. Do I have to prepare myself to endure and be ready for the losses that are going to be on the schedule? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So it could be a shot, like a negative shot, and we've all had those folks in our lives. Trust me, I was there many years ago. A negative shot of one of our core guys, quote unquote, is gone, and it's something to shake up the system. Absolutely. I think that's got to happen. There's a lot of rumors of that. Possibly happening. Now, you were talking about preparing and what could we prepare for? And it led me to your conversation, your kind of feedback, your notes from when you were at Guaranteed Rate for your meeting with ESPN 1000 and hearing about No Sox Fest. This isn't happening. And one of the reasons was, we don't know if we're going to have a general manager. We didn't know what players to promote. Am I framing it kind of in an
and if you think about it, Nick, I'm glad you brought this back up, because when you look at it and from a fan perspective, it's like that's a lame excuse. What do you mean? Why can't you do this? That seems wrong. But I can, from a event planning situation, somebody's got to do that, right? Somebody's got to make up the point of sale to put up the banner. Somebody's got to make up the copy that's going to go over radio stations to promote the thing, or somebody's got to create a commercial that's going to go over NBC Sports Chicago to promote the event. And if you're in a situation where you really have no clue on what your team is going to look like, who you're going to have available, who might be at a speaking event, I could kind of buy the fact that, listen, it does. Maybe the years before, the first year was COVID, and that's understandable. The next year was, we're still COVID concerned. Okay, really? Are we really still there yet? And then now you run into this, and it's like, we just need to have one that everybody else has a fan convention. And then this is the excuse you get. Part of me can kind of get it. Like, can you really plan? Think about how hard it is to plan anything. You just hosted Thanksgiving. How hard was it to plan an event just to have people that come over to eat at your house. It's a lot of prep that goes into it just to have a meal with people. So I can understand, like, if you don't really know who's going to be around, who your general manager is, and really what your direction is of your team. Like, if you're expecting fans to come out and you're saying, come in, and how are you going to sell it? Is the selling point, come on out, we're going to talk about how we're going to turn around next year? Or is it, come on out, we're going to talk about a bunch of guys you don't know? I don't know. So it was a little bit of an interesting thought that I had after the fact, after we talked about it, of like, okay, I can kind of get why they maybe would use that as an opportunity, as an excuse, I guess.
So I was thinking a little bit more about that, and okay, yeah, that was their reason, and you can chip away at that, and you can make arguments, but then I started to think, well, what other planning needs to go, in for a team, and it's stadium giveaways. I track those, and like those are appointment, attendance for me, especially bobbleheads. That stuff's got to get planned well in advance. If you're going to make a mold of a player and all that stuff, and the marketing that goes into a bobblehead or some of these other elaborate stadium giveaways, well, that's what, 8, 10 a year in advance. So are you telling me that, again, and I'm not trying to massacre, you for being the messenger here at all, but are you telling me that there's no giveaways this coming year because they don't know what players were going to be on the team in 2024 to promote? Because all that stuff should have been already done by now.
Yeah. I would say that you're going to get a whole lot of different versions of Luis Robert Jr. bobbleheads, Nick.
Yeah.
Every uniform they've ever worn in their history. Here's Luis Robert Jr. in the 1919 jersey.
In different poses. One will be defensive, one will be stealing a base. With
glasses, without glasses.
Right.
There's all kinds of things you can do.
Yeah,
diving catch, hitting a home run, boom.
That's about it, right? It's just a whole series of Luis Robert Jr. stuff.
Well, they've done, fun stuff in the past. They'll have like a Marvel night or a Star Wars night. I'm sure they can do some cool stuff with that. They can probably do like a Roger Bossard bobblehead, a Gene Honda. Why not?
Brian, thank you so much. Corey Lee bobblehead. Get ready for it. Get ready for your Corey Lee bobblehead. Get those tickets. Line up for those. That's usually a January or February single game ticket. Yeah, I just was thinking of that, when you were explaining it, and I understand to promote something big like that. If you're going to have a Q&A, if you're going to have a panel, you kind of need to know who's going to be around, or you could just have a fest. Hey, Sox fans, just get together and we'll throw out our usuals. Jim Thome, Harold Baines, Bo Jackson, and you're the greatest hits from the past, Guillen, whomever. If you're concerned about really having the panel and everything and who you're going to hype with, okay, I get that. But when it comes to the giveaways, and that's huge for this team, it's going to have to be in 2024. Well, why else are you going to this, to see this team, get together with some friends? Sure. Have a couple drinks, what have you. But it's really the giveaways, I think, that's going to draw a lot of people. So if you don't know who's going to be on, have you not made anything? And I think really it is just Luis Robert Jr. back to back to back to back.
Yeah, and maybe not so many bobbleheads this year, Nick. Maybe it's more, maybe it's
magnetic
a hockey
schedules,
jersey,
more magnetic schedues. Could that be possible?
Yeah, you can
wall calendars,
magnetic schedules. For that college dorm room, refrigerator. You don't want a big magnet on that one. You need a smaller one. Right. You can do the hockey jersey, football jersey, and basketball jersey, White Sox versions of that. Yeah. Halfway to St. Patrick's Day, quarter the way to St. Patrick's Day, almost St. Patrick's Day. Different. Yeah. Some Kelly Green hats, throw those back out there. Nick.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to do Brooks Boyer's job for him. I mean, let's not do this for free. Yeah. So I think we've covered it. We can come up with a lot of great giveaways, you and I.
There is a Nancy Faust bobblehead. It's out there. It exists. I own one. I think it was during her last year. Was that 2010? I don't want to get that date wrong. I'm calling 2010 was her last year. I'm sure somebody's got that in the chat, but yeah. They did that for her, and it was I've got it sitting there on the shelf right here. No Gene Honda though. I don't think there was ever a Gene Honda.
I think we need a Gene Honda, and right. Brian says gun night. You know what? Maybe gun night. That would be something that they would bring up at a meeting. Certainly to be talked about. Forensics evidence night. Let's have. Maybe when when you watch a cop show and they put the little yellow cones with the numbers by the bullet shells. Yeah. Maybe that's a great giveaway.
Oh, sure. Chalk, just in a Ziploc bag, just in case something happens to somebody that you attend a game with. There
you go. Boom. What a great what a great selfie. Here's me and my friend and their chalk outline.
Oh, sure. Yeah. The list just kind of writes itself. So yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. I feel like, I don't know if it's right now, but it's soon, and maybe that's because there's been Sox Fests. Well, there hasn't been in a while, but in this winter-ish time, like with the winter meetings happening soon, and I feel like sometimes there's some early teases of what the promos might look like in the following season, but. Well, because the schedule's already out, you know.
If anybody's going to be first on it and first to tweet about it, I'm going to bank on you, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be following this development closely. Something else that's out there that you can follow, and boy, there's always these are always plentiful. I feel like every off season are these workout videos. Do you watch these workout videos, Pat, of players, what's happening, who they're paired up with, where are they, doing their off-season training? I remember the Romy Gonzalez stuff from last off-season. There's always, a bunch of workout videos. And I just came across one recently of Oscar Colas working out, I guess, with Luis Robert Jr., and they're doing all these different, high jump stuff and medicine ball and, jump rope maybe and sprints, and hey, there's a good workout going on. There's no question about that. Mm-hmm. They're having themselves a workout. How that relates to hitting a cutoff man or laying off a pitch that's 3 feet out of the zone, I have no idea, but hey, they're getting a good workout in. That's all I could say about those videos.
Yeah, the only thing I would say that is positive out of that is maybe there's a situation where Luis Robert Jr. is taking a young guy under his wing a little bit more.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm looking way too far into this, Nick, other than what it is of two guys just, working up a sweat. I have no idea.
Is it wrong?
Is it wrong? For two teammates to just work up a sweat.
Hey, no.
Anywho, but I was thinking about this the other day, now that Luis Robert Jr. really only has to man 1.5 positions rather than 2, where he was before, right? Because you can say what you want about Andrew Benintendi and his lack of power, and maybe we overpaid for a guy that is just a guy, right? But he's going to play an adequate or above average left field for you, so you don't really have to worry about that. So Luis Robert Jr. can maybe concentrate more on his own position and helping out the guy to his left. And maybe there's an opportunity for there to be some growth there from Oscar Colas if he's going to follow someone and how to play an outfield position. Now, again, center and right field are not the same position by any means, but if you're going to emulate an outfielder, you might as well try and do it against a former Gold Glover. So that could be a good thing. I don't know. I'd rather see Oscar Colas like taking balls ricocheting off the wall and making accurate throws and things like that. That would make me more happy. But great. I think you and I really want Oscar Colas to succeed because we're so been deprived of a regular right fielder for so long. It would be great to have the solution right there for us. and we could stop talking about going out and getting this guy or that guy. It'd be great to have a homegrown talent there who's hits from the left side that's going to be successful. So again, it might be just a workout video. I don't look too much into it other than that. And, that's what it is. But I'm hoping it's two guys bonding, and I'm hoping it's Oscar Colas learning something from Luis Robert Jr.
Yeah, I like that angle of perhaps it's this, maybe I don't want to say father figure, but it's, you know what, last year was rough. It was supposed to be rough. We all knew it was going to be rough. You were put into some difficult situations, and like let's really try to figure this out, build a better foundation moving forward. Hopefully that's what it is. And if that's how they want to do it, maybe it's not as eye-catching to be watching baseballs ricochet off the corner and then playing them off the wall. No. Maybe it's not as tantalizing to be watching a player just taking pitches and the patience of that. Maybe they have to have these shirtless workout videos. That's what they need out there. So yeah, whatever that is, if that's just, hey, we're bonding, we're getting along, and the boring stuff, the stuff that Sox fans should really care about, that's on the cutting room floor, because it doesn't really generate clicks. But this workout video of us jumping through these squares and all this other stuff, you should watch this. This is great. So
and going back to Oscar Colas, not to give the guy a pass because he was brutal for the most part in right field. But I was thinking about this too. Not only was playing in that ballpark for as many games as he played at home, new for him, and learning just how to feel comfortable playing at home with, a different line drive in that ballpark is different every time, or every fly ball is going to be slightly different. Then you're going and playing in different ballparks. So the angles on everything and how he's adjusting to pitchers and how he should be making that first step. I always remember Lance Johnson talking about, having that great first step and having that great instinct when you're watching what pitch is coming up and where it might go, and you're having that anticipation. All of that was new to him last year. I just hope that he's learned a little bit. I don't expect him to be a gold glove right fielder anytime soon, but man, if he could be just, an average
fundamentals,
fielder,
if he could do the fundamentals,
that's
where the bar's been at for most of our corner outfielders forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just be what we were hoping for from the plate, right? Because we've lived with enough terrible defense, but then again, I don't know that this general manager, as it was mentioned in the chat, I can't remember by who, but I don't think Getz is going to stand for just subpar defense anymore. So maybe the leash is short for him if he doesn't improve. But maybe we've gone down too much of a rabbit hole with Oscar Colas on this snowy November night.
No, I get all that, and if Getz is true to his word, and I think we've both been saying this from the get-go. I'm not talking about like, do I believe in Getz or any of this stuff, but if Getz goes out and does what he says he's going to do, he wants to get more athletic, he wants speed, he wants, better everything, which is a tall task, especially with what happened with the White Sox in 2023. And that's where he goes, and he actually does those things and is trying his best to achieve it. Yeah, I got to give him credit. If that's really what you're trying to build, who am I to say if that's right or wrong? Like, this is your thing, go for it. So there were a couple of acquisitions this past week since the last time we talked. Sox signed a right-hander, Justin Anderson. He's going to be assigned to AAA Charlotte. Could get an invite to Major League Spring Training, 31 years old. Not really impressive, his numbers, kind of out of the pen is what I think they're going to use him if they use him. But the biggie, the big one, if you want to call it, was the Paul DeYoung signing. And he is he's a local boy, somewhat, Pat. Grew up in the Antioch High School area, in the middle school area. Middle school, I think he came to Illinois, went to high school at Antioch, went to Illinois State University. played for the Cardinals, Blue Jays, and Giants. Last season, slumped offensively, 207, 258, 355 with a 602 OPS and a 127 games. So he could be your shortstop, middle infielder. He's 30 years old. And, to me, Pat, Sox aren't going anywhere in 2024. All right. I really don't care who's playing shortstop. Like, I care, but I don't think whatever's happening in 2024 is not the future. And I hope they don't rush Colson Montgomery. There are people that are they're dialed in way more than I am on Colson Montgomery. Ian Eskridge joins. He and Danny Miller, James Fox. I mean, they are in it on these guys. And there's so many others that do a great job following the youngsters. And I'm hearing amazing things. I've been burned too many times. One thing I know is there's no sense in rushing Colson Montgomery. That's the one thing I know. Just me. Don't rush that guy. No need to. Yeah. So whoever's playing shortstop in 2024, you're kind of just a placeholder, man.
Yeah, and I don't think they will rush Colson Montgomery. And I think even if he comes up and gets some time in a September call-up, I don't think it's a rush to get him in. I think it's more of a let's get him some experience up here and see some major league pitching rather than, this is, trying to rush to get him into the lineup every day. I think that's okay. And I don't think there's anything wrong with getting him some experience around veterans and especially a veteran like a DeYoung, right? If he was able to come up at that time and see how it's done at a major league level and see how a shortstop comports himself on a day in and day out basis to prepare himself, I think that's okay. I don't foresee them rushing Montgomery unless you've always heard it, and I've heard it too. Somebody in spring training will force the team's hand. Like, they've played so well, we can't leave this guy here. There's no reason.
Stop.
You have to run a lap now.
I apologize.
You have to stop doing that kind of stuff.
I know.
But I don't even think that would get him on the major league club this year if he had just a outstanding spring in it. If this was a contending team and there was a spot for him and he was contending for the shortstop position, and you could weather the ups and downs of a rookie player starting at shortstop every day, maybe you could do that. And maybe he wins a spot and he gets, makes the major league club, and you can kind of have that luxury, if you will, to let him learn on the job. But there's no reason to do that, in my opinion, with this situation the Sox are in.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. So, I don't know, I don't. The needle wasn't moved very much with DeYoung signing, joining obviously Nicky Lopez. Is these kind of, I guess Getz is trying to flesh out what he wants. These aren't terrible misses from the target, from Getz's target, in my mind, not at all.
Yeah,
if he's trying to get maybe a little bit more defensive savvy, maybe some speed, this, that, and the other. Offensively, probably, you're definitely not bringing the power. But again, we talked about that. That might not be what he's trying to build. It's like we kind of tried to build that. It didn't work for some reason. Yes, you need home runs. Yes, you need home runs with men on base. But this is the type of baseball I'm trying to play. Again, so Getz is filling out that roster, or at least trying to, with these certain guys here. There were a couple little mini articles, blurbs, maybe you want to call them, that I kind of chased down or went after. And I'm starting to see a theme a little bit. This was from Mark Feinsand of MLB.com. And he was making a match, every team with, a baseball free agent out there. And, this is, I've been hearing this and reading about it. You have too, folks. Pat, you have listeners. Chicago White Sox would be matched with Whit Merrifield. And this is what Feinstein wrote up. Elvis Andrus is a free agent, leaving a potential hole at second base. Merrifield could fill that spot, though his positional flexibility, he can also play all three outfield spots, makes him an appealing player for many rosters. The White Sox will likely target starting pitching this winter, but Merrifield would be an asset to the roster. So, we talked a little Merrifield and Salvi Perez right when the season ended. If you're between those two guys, I think if you told me the Sox are going to get Whit Merrifield and not Perez, I think I could stomach the Merrifield situation because of maybe the versatility that he can play multiple positions in this type of situation that the Sox are in right now, where, come on, I mean, really 2024, maybe even 2025, let's be honest with ourselves. Merrifield, he's durable. He can play your corners. He can play second base. He knows Grifol. He's a former Royal, which is really the most important part of it. That I can get behind.
I'm okay with it. Listen, at this point, again, I've kind of gotten past the fact that this team is going to be built in a Royals image. That is what it is. Again, I guess we could look back to when the Royals were good and went to back-to-back World Series. If you could tell me that it'll turn into that eventually, and somehow the fruits of this labor would be back-to-back World Series, that would be great. I don't think a Whit Merrifield is going to put us over the top in any way, shape, or form. But you do need guys. You got to have guys.
You got
to have guys to fill out a roster. But eventually, you got to have some stars. Every league and every team that's successful is led by superstars, and not just one or two. And in baseball, feels like you have to have multiple in different areas, right? It's got to be one or two stars on the mound, 3 or 4 stars in your lineup. You got to have 2 or 3 stars in your bullpen. So you've got brick and mortar guys right now, Nick. You're talking about guys like DeYoung and your Nicky Lopez's of the world, and now possibly, talking about Whit Merrifield. These are brick and mortar type guys.
Are they're these not one of my favorite terms, Pat, is hard hat and lunch pail guys. Are these? That was always my favorite. Like kind of, and maybe it happens in other cities, but like the Chicago sports talk, like he's a hard hat lunch pail guy. He's guy just right there.
Bring his lunch to work every day and go to work.
Is that, would you fall with Lopez?
And I see very few people actually bring their lunch. I work in Chicago every day. I'm in an office every day. I'm the only person that brings my lunch to work every day.
Okay. Well, you're a white collar guy. You're not a blue collar guy, on your feet all day, having to.
Well, I bring my lean cuisine into the office.
Lean cuisine?
Put it in the microwave. Every day, Nick. I'm not even kidding. Don't
really,
I look fantastic?
It can't be the same meal though. It's got to be. You got to.
Oh, never. But it's the convenience. Right. I right out of the fridge, boom, into the backpack, and off to work I go with my lean cuisine.
Good for you. Good for you. You're a dying breed, Pat. Never change. I've told you that several times, so you keep doing that. Yeah. So I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. Yeah, it's nothing flashy right now. It's just these are guys to fill out a roster, but also to continue the vision. So we don't have superstars, maybe aplenty, maybe future superstar Nicky Lopez. I don't know. Caught this quote from him this past week. This was Lopez talking about the White Sox. He just came over to the South Side. Obviously, some pitchers have left and maybe a position player here and there. There's no reason why we can't compete for the AL Central. Now, he sounds like somebody I might have been talking to at a holiday gathering a couple of years ago. Very optimistic, Nicky Lopez. I think you have to be when you join a new team, but you can't honestly think that. I don't know.
Well, he got the memo. They sent him the memo that says everybody must say that we can compete in this division. We will not be expending a lot of money. So you look around, and we're in the AL Central, and we can compete. And he's like, okay, I guess I have to do this to get my first check. So this will be what I say.
Yeah. I think you're right on with that. No reason why we can't compete for the AL Central. Yeah, there's a lot of little things here and there. The list is growing longer and longer, as the calendar keeps kind of ticking one day at a time here. But again, winter meetings haven't started yet. They'll kick off next week, early December. And you never know. I've heard the Sox could be active. You've heard the rumors of Cease and Aloy and Feinsand saying they're going after starting pitching. Where are they going after that starting pitching, and how much are they paying for it is a whole different scenario here.
Well, I look at, I don't mean to cut you off, but I look at the starting pitching that they go after is going to be similar guys, lunch pail and go to work brick and mortar guys, right? Yeah. There's nothing to be flashy there. So.
I agree with you. I agree with that. I do not believe this is a superstar off season for the Sox. If it was a different situation and they really were going to be competing in 2024, me, go after pitching, go after some of that pitching, and it's available. You're going to have to pay, and the market's crazy right now. It's kind of being set. You're going to have to pay some money. Sox don't pay money for pitching and a lot of other things, but that's what it is. That is the market. If you want to compete, okay, and if you want those horses in your stable, that's what you got to pay. And I'm a pitching guy, and if that's what you want to do, or it's what you should do, in my opinion, you're going to have to pay that. And I don't think that's not what's going to happen here this offseason. Will Leach from MLB.com, White Sox, a new direction. It's going to be a tumultuous year or two for the White Sox and their fans. One suspects, but it's now clear that the last era, the one that was supposed to be the peak era, just didn't work out. It's clearly time for a reset. So another phrase that is reset. Not rebuild. Yeah, reset. Just time for a reset. Everybody's tipping around, like, just call it. Just call it. It's a rebuild. Now, because they're not getting rid of everybody and they're not going to get rid of Luis Robert Jr., we can't call it officially a rebuild. I don't know about that.
Yeah, interesting. I think whenever I think of reset is, remember when, I don't know what gaming system you had growing up, Nick, but you take the game cartridge out of the gaming system, you blow on it.
Oh, sure.
Get the dust out and you put it back in. That's like a reset. This feels like a little bit more than a pull out the cartridge and blow.
Or
sorry.
Or if no, you're just fine. Or if you were losing at a certain point and like the time was running out, you would kind of like jerk the controller, and it would shut the game off.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Now, if your blow on the cartridge situation didn't work, you use rubbing alcohol. You use this with a cotton ball.
Got it.
All of this can be taken way out of context, but if you're just jumping in here on the YouTube channel, it's we're talking gaming systems and how to reset them or
we may have to change our rating.
I'll take care of that. You don't worry your head on that.
Oh, I never do. I don't worry about anything.
I'll take care of all that. So, with the rumors of like Cease and Aloy and others potentially, do you ever, as a Sox fan, do you ever wish like, oh, I want this player that's on the Sox, I want them to go to this team. Like, I'd love for them to be matched up over there, or I really hope for them to go over there. I mean, do you ever feel
like
that
for
way
their benefit, so they'd have an opportunity to win somewhere?
Perhaps, or maybe you've got a bit of a second or third, favorite team, and you're that's kind of my favorite National League team, or a relative is in this city, and I'd like for them to experience this player over there as their hometown team.
And I can't say honestly, Nick, that has ever crossed my mind. I think if a player that I root for, or in my older age now, in my younger years, I would never want anybody to go ever. It'd be like, and it was devastating when they were not on the team anymore. So in my older age, it's okay. I don't really care where they go. Tell me what we're getting back for them, and can I envision their a future there with this person that we picked up? Is this person going to be on the team when we're winning again? Are they going to be part of a? Are they just again to fill out a uniform for a period of time, or is this actually going to lead to something down the road? And can I start to do the math in my head on other guys and where they're at in their careers, and when can I really start to project this team to think about, okay, this is when the winning possibly could happen. This is when we're on the roller coaster going up. I can't say that, well, I hope this person just goes there because it'll make them happy. Let's be honest. These guys are making a lot of money. I'm sure they all want to win, but they'll be handsomely paid wherever they go. Most of them will be, regardless of if they're superstars or average players. Doesn't mean that money provides all their happiness in their life, but I think, if they're getting paid and paid well, where they play, and these days probably doesn't matter all too much to them. So why should it matter too much to me?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really cross my mind too much of, I want to find a perfect landing spot for Cease or Eloy. It's just the return. What team has a rich farm system? What team has what we need to fill out our roster so we can be most competitive as soon as possible in whatever vision that Chris Getz and company has. So
now I will say, though, if they got traded at the deadline to a contender and it was a player that I liked, I will watch them in the playoffs and hope that they do well. But there's not like, I hope they go to this team so they can experience. Like, I don't want to see players like go to the Yankees because you feel good about their, not the Yankees are winning tons of World Series these days, but I don't really. But if they went somewhere and I could see them actually contend after the trade deadline or something, then I guess, but I don't hope for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, trade deadline, I think you got to have a better sense of who's in it, who's not, and maybe a veteran that you've had on a team. Your club's going nowhere, but there's a chance that this veteran might be able to get, chase a ring, so to speak, and you could see better things for that player. Like, why selfishly just hold on, go to this team. You're going to find happiness through a championship, we think. I get that. So, Pat, next week we are going to celebrate the beginning of season 6, believe it or not, on this podcast. We are knocking on the door of episode 250, which is insane in the independent White Sox podcast world. It has been a wild, wild ride. And this time right here in the off season of 2018, when this podcast was kind of born, the articles, you talk about rumors and articles, it was not only White Sox going after Manny Machado, but White Sox are also going after Bryce Harper. And there is a way that they're going to get them both to the South Side. That was what was happening in the off season of 2018. That's how the podcast kind of started, looking at images of Manny Machado's glove, black, white. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Watch out now. I think that's what I think it means. We're in for a real treat here. So 5 years, man, to 2018. It's crazy to think about that. And I just feel like I haven't recovered quite. And I don't know if I ever will.
Well, you hold on to things. I know that about you. You like to hold it dear. Yeah. And it was funny because, when we were talking about it, and maybe even before I joined this podcast, that's a fun trivia question. I wasn't the original sidekick of this show. True. But, even just you and I talking, it was, wow, this would be great to get one of these guys. And it was the accelerate the timeline on the rebuild, because we were in the rebuild at that point. And you do that. And it went from a 4 or 5 year plan to maybe shaving it down to a 3 year plan. And it's like, we could win now. right? And you could see the stars were aligning. You were thinking and dreaming of having a star of that caliber, or stars of that caliber in your lineup every day. And just the conversation that was had about who would you rather have. If you can only have one, who would you rather have? What makes more sense? From this perspective, Manny Machado seen as a bad guy. Does that make a difference to you? Bryce Harper seems like kind of a razzle dazzle guy. Do you want that hot dog on your team type of thing? And those are the great conversations that we had, and not to land either one of them was so deflating and disheartening that we still talk about it to this day.
Yeah. I don't think about it every day. Most days I think about it and how it went so horribly wrong. And just Harper was the guy for me. I thought they completely just played the whole thing with Machado so wrong. I know it was incentive based and he could have done this, but Machado's camp was telling the Sox and Jerry Reinsdorf pretty much from the get-go, this is what I want, this guaranteed money. And it just, you got to play the game.
Yeah.
If you're not being told, it's one thing if you didn't know what the game was, but Jerry knew what the game was. And that was just, so unfortunately, I think about it. I think about it quite a bit. And I think about it when we're about to kick off a new season, because it's, wow, like we started Good Guys Talk Back with this, like, kind of this promise, like we're going to have the superstar for the next, like, maybe decade, 8 to 10 years. And here we are, we're kind of through all of that. It's washed over us. And now we're kind of starting a little bit something new. And it's really bizarre to me.
Time flies when you're having good fun, right, buddy?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you could write a book on everything that was supposed to happen and didn't happen, the small things that did happen and all the twists and turns from fall of 2018 to now, as we sit here in 2023.
You should write that book.
It could be a giveaway. If they don't have any of their ideas, it could be one of their giveaways.
And they could do a bobblehead of Nick Murawski.
There you go.
Signing his book for people. That's a great idea. How long it take you to write a book?
I'm sure not that long.
No, not for a learned man like you. That's
a long weekend. Would you classify a long weekend as 4 days? Or is that an extended weekend?
A long weekend, I would say, is a 3. Okay. And you get the wraparound situation involved. That's an extended weekend.
Boy,
easy there.
You're having some different weekends. So yeah, I think in a wraparound weekend, you could, if you really, lunch pail and hard hat, you could get that figured out.
If you write a book over a 4-day weekend, I'll mow your lawn for a year, Nick.
All right. Okay.
You get to write a book, and it's got to be like a real book. I mean, I'm not talking,
well, I'm not going to be able to get it published in the 4-day.
Well, you just got to write it. I'm not saying you got to get it published and
doesn't have to be edited or anything. No edits, just
write it. I'm going to say 250 pages.
250 pages.
Yeah. Can you write 250 pages?
Done.
In a weekend?
In a wraparound in a 4-day weekend? Sure. I'll do that. I can.
Okay.
And I get to pick the topic.
Well, yeah, it's got to be White Sox related. You just told me what the topic was. What do you mean? I get to pick the topic.
This is the topic.
You said you could write a book. I said, there it is. Write the damn book. What do you mean? You're going to pick a whole new topic on me now? Nobody's coming out to buy a book other than what the topic you just said.
Jerk Store is the line. I'm staying with Jerk Store.
Mary and Joseph.
All right. Pat, it is always a pleasure talking White Sox with you, my friend.
You know what, buddy? It is a pleasure talking to you about White Sox baseball as well. Can't wait to talk to you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And we'll celebrate together.
Yeah, we will celebrate. Folks, thank you so very much joining us on the YouTube channel live on Sunday nights, jumping in the comments. Some great conversation. Audio available absolutely everywhere you find your podcasts. We're on Twitter X at Good Guys TB. We've got a Facebook fan page. Hey, for Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.